Rasa, I'll just make you host. So, is there anything else you can just take?
All right.
Raj? Raj?
Yes, Ruchi.
Yeah.
Abuzad, the co-host.
Let's
Yeah.
have Raj is co-host. Okay, so everyone have to coordinate with Raj.
Yes. Also have Rajni sir with us here.
Okay, Ruchi, it's time now, and even the speaker is here, so I think we should start.
So can I start?
Just Abuzad.
Ruchi, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Sure. Should I start?
Abuzad, yes.
Good evening to one and all present here. As a part of Vigilance Awareness Week, it is observed every year during the week in which the birthday of Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel is celebrated. We are here to collectively participate in prevention of and fight against corruption and to raise public awareness regarding the threat posed by corruption. Beginning with the social media campaign on anti-corruption, we organized various events in the Vigilance Week, like short video making competition, webinar on electoral reforms and vigilant voter, webinar on constitution literacy, and now here we are towards the end of this Vigilance Awareness Week. Today, we have gathered on this virtual platform for the webinar on the topic, Role of Civil Society in Combating Corruption. Public Concern for Governance Trust is an NGO founded by late Shri B.G. Deshmukh, Shri Julio Ribeiro, and Dr. R.K. Anand in 2002. PCGT organizes various leadership programs, campus ambassador programs under its segment called the Youth for Governance or YFG program, wherein the youngsters like us are removed from the bubble of apathy and are trained to be honest and ethical citizens of tomorrow. PCGT, in collaboration with NSS Unit, Central Mumbai Zone, and Anti-Corruption Bureau, Maharashtra, welcomes you to this webinar on the topic, Role of Civil Society in Combating Corruption. I, Abuzad Peringalam Cheria, Campus Ambassador at PCGT, will be your host for this webinar. Our esteemed speaker believes that India, being a welfare state, the government provides several services to the citizens. If the government functionaries demand bribe for any government duty, the citizens should approach the Anti-Corruption Bureau. A corruption-free society will usher in an era of progress, prosperity, and good governance. This would be possible only with the active participation and cooperation of the citizens. In order to help ACB to free the society from the clutches of corruption and give impetus to the development, we now begin our webinar as to understand our role in combating corruption. In order to guide us on this very issue, we are here to have with us Director General of Police, Maharashtra, Shri Rajneesh Sir. Sir is a 1988 batch IPS officer. Let us now hear from the man of integrity and honesty. Over to you, sir. Rajneesh, sir.
Sir, I think you are on mute.
Hello, can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, if I'm audible, then I'll continue. I'd like to thank Mr. Ju. Audible?
Yes,
Yes, sir. Yes.
Your network bandwidth is low.
Those who are not speaking should switch off their cameras. That should help, I think.
They should take off the. They should mute themselves also.
Yes. Please turn off your cameras if you are not speaking. Yes, thank you.
We are getting disconnected. Now again we are connected. I hope I am audible. Yes, sir. I would like to thank the public concern for governance trust, Mr. Julio Rivero, for having invited me over today and to speak on the topic with regard to the Vigilance Week. We have the Vigilance Week every year, and this year it is from 26th October to 1st of November. So we are concluding the Vigilance Week. The vigilance importance of the Vigilance Week is that every year it is held, and it is an occasion when it reminds us about the need of probity in public life. It reminds us of the need to take action against corrupt public servants, and it informs members of the public that they can complain if there is a demand for bribe. The Anti-Corruption Bureau of Maharashtra is a very old organization. In fact, its manual itself is dates back to 1968. There are various organizations all over India which tackle corruption. As far as central government goes, it is the Central Vigilance Commission, the Lokpal, and you have the CBI. But as far as state government employees and state government organizations is concerned, it is basically the State Anti-Corruption Bureau and the Lok Ayukta. We have come a long way since the Santhanam Committee report of for tackling corruption, the Prevention of Corruption Act 1988, and amendments to the Prevention of Corruption Act in 2018. Corruption erodes the public confidence in institutions and instills the belief that the only way to get things done is by corrupt means. This in turn leads to a corrupt society, as people believe that corruption is acceptable and a way of life. Corruption has negative consequences for development. It affects economic growth, discourages foreign investment, and leads to diversion of resources. In essence, corruption poses serious challenges for governance, as states cannot achieve the goals of development without tackling corruption. The development process of any government has to be based upon the principles of transparency in government and accountability in administration. That corruption needs to be tackled has been recognized by all countries in the world. An international legal framework has been developed to tackle corruption. This framework is referred to as the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, which came into force in 2005. In addition, it is felt that corruption needs to be tackled not only nationally, it has to be tackled internationally. This is highlighted by the Panama Papers, the Pandora Papers, and the existence of safe havens in various parts of the world where people park their illegal money obtained by illegal means. In India also, the government and the courts have recognized that various mechanisms need to exist to tackle corruption. And therefore, we have the State Anti-Corruption Bureau in Maharashtra, where we have a DG Anti-Corruption Bureau heading the state ACB. Under him, there are 2 additional Director Generals. We have an additional Commissioner for Mumbai, and we have 7 Superintendents of Police. And we have small units of the Anti-Corruption Bureau in every district in Maharashtra. One of the very important methods to tackle corruption is by way of preventive vigilance. And this includes well laid out procedures, tender procedures, a good vigilance setup in every organization, in every department, then a proper posting policy a well laid out policy with regard to officers of doubtful integrity, well laid out systems that act as a deterrence against any potential wrongdoer. So there are preventive vigilance is a very important aspect for tackling corruption, because if there are well laid out systems in every department, there is a strong vigilance setup that in itself would be a deterrent against any potential wrongdoer. Here I would just like to highlight two important changes which have been made in the Prevention of Corruption Act 2018. One is the introduction of section 17A in the Prevention of Corruption Act. 17A in the Prevention of Corruption Act has been introduced, which states that any public servant, with regard to decisions he takes and recommendations made in discharge of his official duties, cannot have any matter proved against him by a police officer without first obtaining consent of his competent authority. I repeat, 17A states, section 17A is an amendment brought about in 2018, which states that no police officer can inquire, public investigate into a complaint against a public servant who has taken a decision or made a recommendation with regard to the discharge of his official duties. Now, the procedure with regard to 17A is that if you receive a complaint against a public servant which pertains to matter taken, decision taken or recommendation made on file by that public servant, we have to refer it to the department. The department then takes a call within 3 months, extendable by 1 month, within 3 months, extendable by 1 month, whether the matter should be inquired into, requires inquiry or investigation, number one. If it requires an inquiry, whether the matter should be proceeded with departmentally, or whether the matter needs to be investigated by a police officer under the Prevention of Corruption Act. Once the department has taken a decision on this matter within a period of 3 + 1 month, that is total 4 months, it will communicate to the concerned investigative agency. In the state, it is the State Anti-Corruption Bureau. In the center, it is the Central Bureau of Investigation, that you may proceed with the inquiry, public investigation into the matter. So 17A is a very important amendment which has been brought about in 2018. The second important amendment which has been brought about in 2018, the Prevention of Corruption Act, is with regard to section 19. Now, section 19 of the Prevention of Corruption Act states that you require sanction to prosecute a public servant. Once the investigative agency has reached the conclusion that it has come to a conclusion that the officer needs to be prosecuted, it has to approach the concerned sanctioning authority for approval to prosecute the public servant. Now, the sanctioning authority will take a call and then give its so-called sanction to the authority, to the investigating agency. And no court can take cognizance. No court can take. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So no court can take cognizance of any investigation done by a investigating without sanction, without the sanction. Safeguards with regard to safeguards are there for protecting a honest public servant with regard to his decisions taken and recommendations made, and also a retired public servant. Now, section 19 has been amended in 2018, whereby not only a serving public servant you need to take sanction for prosecution, but even a retired public servant you have to take sanction for prosecution to prosecute a public servant in a court of law. This is as per the 2018 amendment. So 19 has been amended to incorporate retired public servants also. So the amendments are brought in with a view to ensure that those who are honest public servants do their duty diligently, take correct decisions, and if they have taken correct and legal decisions, they will be protected in a manner whereby there are checks and balances within the act. So 2018 major amendments have taken place. In addition to that, I would just like to now highlight another issue is that there is this time the CVC has specifically referred to public interest disclosure and protection of informers resolution. There is something called a public interest disclosure and protection of informers resolution, which has now been which is already there, where the identity of the complainant will not be revealed unless the complainant himself has made the details of the complaint public or disclosed his identity to any other office or authority. This public interest disclosure and protection of informers resolution means that if you want to give a complaint to the Central Vigilance Commission against any central government employee, you can do so with a rider that my name should not be disclosed, but you may inquire into the facts of the matter. So the Central Vigilance Commission thereafter will act on it and ensure that you proceed with the they will proceed with the inquiry. This is under the PIDPI. However, this applies only to central government employees and complaint has to be made to Central Vigilance Commission. This does not apply to anonymous and pseudonymous complaints. As far as anonymous and pseudonymous complaints go, they are not to be entertained either. They will not be entertained either by the CVC or by the CBI or by the State Anti-Corruption Bureau. As anonymous or pseudonymous complaint will be simply filed. It will not be inquired into. So these are the various changes which have taken place, which I have highlighted. Of course, there are a lot of challenges which we face. One is that we need to have a good quality of investigation. We need to have a good quality of public prosecutors who will lead the evidence in trial. Then we need to also ensure that the cases come up for trial quickly. And we have to then ensure that the case is taken to its logical conclusion in such a manner that the accused gets convicted. So as you can see that the government has been trying from time to time to devise various mechanisms to tackle corruption. There are various checks and balances in place, both to protect the honest public servant and also to punish the wrongdoer. It is a long drawn battle in which all citizens of the country need to be involved. The lessons have to be taught, learned from school, from your house, in your formative years of every person's life, so that he leads an honest life and contributes to the growth and development of the country. As far as lodging a complaint is there, any citizen in India can lodge a complaint. As far as Maharashtra goes, the ACB Anti-Corruption Bureau Maharashtra has a toll-free number 1064, where anybody can phone up and lodge a complaint. Then we have a WhatsApp for 9930997700. Then we have ACB email complaint, ACB webmail @ mahapolice.gov.in. We also have a ACB mobile app, www.acbmaharashtra.net. In 2020, we made out 601 trap cases, 630 trap cases in 2020. And in 2021 till October, we have made out 601 trap cases. So trap cases basically is where complainants come to us. We ensure, we send him with the recorder. The recorder, on the basis of the recorder, the demand is made by the public servant. The demand is recorded. Pre-trap panchnamas are drawn up. Then the so-called complainant is entitled to go and give the money. We send panchas with him. in the presence of judge, if public servant accepts the money, he is immediately arrested. There is a Panchnama again drawn up, and therefore we have made out very large number of cases in both 2020 and 2021 in this regard against corrupt public servants. Public members of the public do come forward to us, and based on their complaints, we do trap corrupt public servants. So this is just an indication that members of the public are in Maharashtra do come forward, and we do take cognizance of their complaint and act on it in a time-bound manner. With these few words, I thank you all for having called me. I thank Shri Julio Ribeiro for having called me. Thank you, sir. I am available for anything further on the matter.
Thank you, sir, for that insightful talk. Now, the floor is open for questions. Participants may raise their hands or put their questions in the chat box. Okay. Sir, there is a question sent to me on my private chat. The question goes as follows. As per the records published on website of ACB Maharashtra, 645 cases of corruptions have been registered in 2021 up till October. Whereas in everyday life, we see so many instances of corruption. Then how can we make the common man report such cases?
Yes, as I have already said, we take very serious cognizance of any complaint which comes to us, especially where there is a demand of money. Now, whenever the complaint comes, I want to clarify one matter here, that wherever a complainant comes, we record his complaint immediately. And even if the money has to be paid by the complainant in the first hand, supposing the demand is say 1 lakh, supposing the demand is 10,000, 1 lakh, the payment has to be made by the complainant from his money. But after the payment is made and acceptance is done, that becomes part of the investigating papers. The amount paid by the complainant is reimbursed to him immediately within a span of 1 or 2 months from government funds. So if you paid 1 lakh or you have paid 10,000, that money which you have paid is reimbursed to you by the government immediately within a short span of time, so that you do not lose your money. So I think that people come forth in large numbers. Wherever there is a demand for money, they should come forward to the Anti-Corruption Bureau, to all the units, and come forward and lodge their complaints. You have to tackle the issue. If you pay up the money, you are in a way so-called encouraging corruption. So the only way to tackle it is to come forward and give us complaints, and assure you that the Anti-Corruption Bureau Maharashtra shall immediately take cognizance of your complaint.
Sir, there is one more question, and that is how to make people staying in rural areas aware of such laws that stand against corruption.
The fact of the matter is that we are getting complaints from rural areas. So even public in rural areas are now fully aware of their rights, and our website is in Marathi and English. So our website is available for people to see across the state of Maharashtra, and we get large number of complaints even in rural areas, from remote areas. So we have units in every district. In every district, we have units where the Anti-Corruption Bureau intervenes, and any complaint is immediately taken cognizance of. Plus, weeks like the Vigilance Week, which we have now, are occasions when we do reach out to the public and inform them about various laws, regulations, about the places where and the mechanisms where they can come and lodge a complaint with regard to corruption matters.
Sheikh Tahura, you may unmute yourself and ask your question.
Good morning, sir. Sorry, good evening. So
Yes.
the question of mine is, how can technology play a part against corruption?
Yeah, this is a good point. Technology has a very important role to play in tackling corruption because all organizations are moving towards reducing the interface between the public and the organization in such a way that everything is done in a transparent and accountable manner by way of having everything done online, which is properly recorded, and everything is done in a time-bound manner, so that the technological interface helps in reducing the so-called human interface, because human interface is required only in certain situations. It's not required. Human interface is not required in various matters. Wherever you have a technological interface, there is no question of a person making money, a demand for money, or him accepting the money. So in a way, technology certainly helps us in tackling corruption. It's really a preventive measure, and therefore technology should be adopted in these various matters, especially where there are issues pertaining to money, and government organizations need to move to a technological interface and reduce the human interface.
Thank you, sir.
Sneha Upadhyay.
Yes, good evening, sir. First of all, thank you for giving very helpful information. My question is, will the complaint will get registered if the victim will not have any clear evidence towards the corruption?
No, the first thing is that a cognizable offense should be disclosed to a police officer. A cognizable offense has to be disclosed to a police officer based on evidence. Evidence is very important, number one. Number two, if you don't have the evidence, but you feel that there is something which is wrong in or some corruption involved, you can still give a written complaint, and it is for us to pick up the evidence. But as I said, that our investigation is evidence based. We cannot go onto an investigation which is not evidence based. So you can either refer the matter to us, and it is for us to collect the evidence. Number one. Number two, you have collected the evidence and you have submitted it to us. Either way, we will look into it.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
So there is a question in the chat box. How do we stop corruption which takes place during elections?
So that how to tackle corruption during elections is a very is a big issue on which the Anti-Corruption Bureau, we really don't get into that of tackling corruption in elections. It is something for which needs to be legislated upon, and which needs to be dealt with by the courts. Already some measures have been brought in. The measures which have been brought in is that when you stand for election, you have to file an affidavit. Where the affidavit, you have to state what are your properties, what all you own. That is a kind of a transparent situation which has been brought in. But as I said, to tackle corruption in elections is a matter for legislation. If we receive any complaint which discloses a cognizable offense during election, we do take cognizance.
Rahul, you may unmute yourself and ask the question. Okay, moving on. Tanaya Gandhi.
Yes, sir. So my question is that how at a student level, like as we youngsters, how can we fight against corruption, or how can we raise our voice against corruption? What are your opinions on that?
So the only way to fight against corruption is for every individual to take a stand that if there is a demand for bribe, we should not pay. Number one. Number two is that if there is a demand for bribe, we should lodge a complaint. So very often people pay the bribe and then talk about corruption. That is not a solution. The solution tackling corruption is that you have to take not pay whatever, and I will not only not pay, but I will also take it up and ensure that action is taken on such a demand.
So there is one more question asking what is cognizable offenses?
What is cognizable offense? Cognizable wherever an offense is disclosed as per the law, wherever an offense is disclosed as per the law, the police is bound to take cognizance. So whatever is the law, first of all, every citizen of India should know what is the law. If he knows what is the law, if there is any violation of the law, and a complaint is made to a police officer, he has to take cognizance of whatever is the violation of the law. The police officer is duty bound to take cognizance and register an FIR.
Okay, thank you, sir. Sheikh Tahura.
Hello, sir. So, what we can do to engage school children in anti-corruption systems and all?
What we can do to encourage school children?
Yes, miss. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so school children actually, as I said in my final remark, that the formative years of the student, of a child, are very important. What is taught to him in school, what is taught to him in college, what is taught to him in his house, how he is brought up. Is he brought up as a law-abiding citizen? Is he brought up in a proper manner? What are the kind of peer groups he moves with? So if he is brought up in a manner and the right values are inculcated in a school child or in a college student, over a period of time, that child or that student will become a good citizen of India. So there are things which a lot of it comes up in your growing formative ages, and you take your so-called personality is formed in this period, and therefore it is important both for the school teacher, the college teacher, the parents to encourage the right values in children.
Thank you, sir.
So there is one more question. It is that the corruption charges in the corporate world. In the corporate world, is it as worse as in the real life?
So it is like this. Corporate world. I have not worked in corporate world, so I don't really know what happens in the corporate world. But now, in the Prevention of Corruption Act, there have been some changes made in the 2018 amendment. As per 2018 amendment, now there is a duty cast on the corporate world also. For example, I'll just read out. Section 9 refers of the Prevention of Corruption Act refers to offense relating to being a public servant by a commercial organization. And Section 10 refers to person in charge of commercial organization to be guilty of offense. Although we have not received many such complaints, but for the first time, commercial organizations have been brought within the ambit of the Prevention of Corruption Act. Of course, this is just the beginning. So ultimately, corruption is not an issue either of government or of corporation. It is based on human nature, the greed of a human being, the values of the human being, and over a period of time, what are his expectations from life and whether he can meet it or he cannot meet it. So corruption is based on human greed, and corruption is based on human nature, and therefore it will exist in all organizations.
Sneha Upadhyay, you may ask your question.
Yes, sir. I would like to ask one more question. What if the corruption is as small as a person asking us for money to go in front of a line? For example, for paying electricity bill, there are long lines. So one particular person asks, "Ki pay us some money, and we will make you to go in front of the line." So a incident this small, should we report this to you, or should we try to solve this matter on a ground level?
See, we have lodged complaints of corruption even for matters of 200 rupees. Even 200 rupee complaint corruption has been lodged. So question is that the law does not make a distinction between matter or large matter. Amount of corruption not based on amount of money demanded. Number one. Number two is that the question is only that ultimately that person who is demanding money from you, he has to be trapped. Now, if he has to be trapped, you will need to come to us. We will need to record, we will need to ensure that he makes the demand. And second is that he should accept it. Now, demand and acceptance and demand is the most primary part of the trap. The demand is the most important part of the trap. So the demand, if it is made, howsoever small the amount, can lead to a cognizable offense as far as the Anti-Corruption Bureau. We have lodged complaints of even small amounts of 200 rupees of that type. So it should be, you are free to come to the Anti-Corruption Bureau with howsoever smaller demand it is.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Tanaya?
Yes, sir. So my next question is, you talking about bribes and all. So this is pertaining to the police. So we have seen some police bribing or asking for money. That comes under corruption. But again, when you go and file a complaint, there are times when your word isn't being heard the way it should be, or it is being manipulated because the offense is under that convict of police department. So in this situation or in this case, whom do we best approach to? Yeah, that's
Yeah. So if there is a demand for money, the demand for money, and there is a corruption case, then you are supposed to you are free to approach the Anti-Corruption Bureau. So demand for money, whether it is from a police or a revenue officer or from a talati or from anybody, for money, there is a demand for money, then you need to ensure a case is made out under the Prevention of Corruption Act 1988, and you can come to the Anti-Corruption Bureau to lodge your complaint.
Thank you, sir.
Rucha Dalvi? Okay, she has put a message in the chat. Okay, she's here. Go on, Rucha.
Yeah. So my question is, do lower wages lead to what can be done about maintaining integrity? May I repeat my question, sir?
No, I did not get the question.
So the question is that, do lower wages lead to an increase in bribery? And if so, what can we do about that?
Who? No. I will request Abuze to just repeat the question.
Yes, sir, I'll do that. Do lower wages lead to an increase in bribery? If so, what can be done about maintaining integrity? Is this okay?
See, ultimately, wages are wages. As far as if you talk about government, wages have increased substantially over a period of time. Of course, there are market forces at play. There is something called inflation, and you need to also account for wages and inflation. The question is that wages by itself wage by itself cannot be a ground to indulge in corrupt practices. So if somebody says that my wage is low, therefore I'm indulging in corruption, that cannot be an but organization, every government and every organization has its own constraints about the extent to which wages can be raised. But it is a valid point that wages should be tackled in such a manner that everybody has a substantial amount of money in which it can run. If increase, then that is all leading to, it is based on greed. It is called greed based. Yeah.
So,
Yes. Yes,
can we
please.
take the next question?
Yeah, please tell.
Tanaya?
Yes, sir. So my question is, if I'm not wrong, you just said in your previous answering the previous question that technology is definitely useful in terms of tracking corruption, in terms of tackling corruption. So my question pertaining to this would be, what has anti-corruption, what technological measures or technological development have Anti-Corruption Bureau taken into consideration in India, or for that matter in Maharashtra, and how are they working on with it?
Yeah, as far as technology goes, you see, we have a system of voice authenticating. When there is a demand of money, there is a question of voice authentication, which is done by the forensic science laboratories. Now, as far as all police forces go, and as far as the anti-corruption bureau goes, we are dependent on the forensic science laboratory for all the technological help they give us. And the forensic science laboratories have been upgraded over a period of time, and they are certainly providing required help and assistance to the Anti-Corruption Bureau in its efforts. And we also are making extensive use of both the WhatsApp platform. We are encouraging complaints by way of email. We are encouraging complaints by way of ACB toll-free number. We are using WhatsApp numbers. So we are using technology in various ways and methods to help the Anti-Corruption Bureau. And this is an ongoing process.
All right, sir. Just a minute, Abuzir. I just had a follow-up question. Sir, you talking about all this completely appreciated. What my question is, the marginal people who are not aware or not educated about all these things or all these technologies, are they need to be aware about it? And if yes, then what can be done to spread awareness about the Anti-Corruption Bureau? Because yes, even they are facing difficulties in terms of tackling corruption, but it's just that they don't have any means to voice up their opinion. So what can be done to make them aware about such a body that looks after or tackling corruption?
No, we are, as a body, we are trying to spread our this thing. As I said, we have a reach in all districts of Maharashtra. Number one. Number two is that we have a website which can be easily seen by everybody in Maharashtra. Then thirdly, we do make use of vigilance weeks to spread the message and spread the information into not only urban areas but also in rural areas. And fourthly, we are also receiving a large number of complaints, not only from urban areas, but we are also receiving from rural and remote areas with regard to corruption. So I believe that there is a spread already taking place about both what are the laws that need to tackle corruption, and also the fact that we are getting complaints from rural and remote areas. All efforts are also being made from our side to ensure that we spread our message across into all districts, into all talukas, and get as many complaints as we can from even rural areas. And our efforts are ongoing in this regard.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
So one more last question. There's a question that do we need to give evidence for toll-free number?
Do we need to give evidence for toll-free? Evidence is required. See, the question is that you anonymous, first of all, anonymous and pseudonymous complaints are not entertained now, and were never entertained also. You need to give your identity. You need to come forward with your complaint, and your complaint should be based on certain facts. Complaint should be based on certain facts, and by facts I mean that yes, something has gone wrong as per the law. Something has gone wrong as per the law, and the law has been violated. And the law has been violated, and therefore the police needs to take cognizance of this matter. So I am not saying that you need to come up with a bunch load of documents and all that, etc. But at least a basic complaint should be there, which on the basis of what I have said, that you are coming forth with some substantial facts to substantiate your complaint.
Thank you, sir. Now, the time has come to announce the much awaited results for the short video making competition, which was organized by PCGT in collaboration with NSS units. The winner for this competition is NSS unit of Swami Vivekanand Education Society's College of Arts, Science and Commerce. I would like to thank you, sir, for answering all our questions so patiently. I request all to kindly switch on your videos as we are about to take an oath against corruption. I pledge to follow probity and rule of law in all walks of life, to neither take nor offer bribe, to perform all tasks in an honest and transparent manner, to act in public interest, to lead by example, exhibiting integrity in personal behavior, to report any incident of corruption to the appropriate agency. I would now like to invite Professor Nikhil to speak a few words.
Good evening. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yes, thank you very much. Let me on the onset convey my congratulations to wonderful team of PCGT for organizing this wonderful session. Our volunteers are going to be the flag bearer of this moment ahead. And it is indeed a privilege for all of us that Dr. Julio Ribeiro is here in person. And our volunteers will take a lot of inspiration from him because he has been a stalwart in this field for decades. And I am very happy that our NSS volunteers could understand the basics of fighting corruption today. This kind of sessions will give them much needed motivation to become alert and responsible citizens. Throughout the pandemic, our volunteers have worked on field to conduct blood donation drives, medical screening, for organizing community kitchens and conducting various medical camps. Considering this background, I think it is but apt that these young volunteers are going to take the mantle to fight against corruption in the future. And I look forward to more such programs from the team of PCGT in weeks and months ahead. I must add here that our NSS director and registrar of University of Mumbai, Sri Sudhir Puranik, is indeed a great icon for all of us, and his motivation and inspiration is really a great part which motivates the entire team of our NSS volunteers. And of course, another pillar of NSS at University of Mumbai, Sri Ramesh Devkar, these have personified the true integrity in their working spirit. And I think our entire NSS team can learn from these examples and contribute towards this movement ahead. Thank you very much for this wonderful session, and we look forward for more such interactive sessions and as well as on-field activities in coming future. Thank you very much. All the best.
Thank you, sir. Now, I would request our very own PCGT program manager, Ms. Ruchi Bhagat, to propose a vote of thanks.
Thank you, Abu sir. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Okay, thank you. It is my privilege to propose the vote of thanks. I would like to thank DGP Maharashtra, Rajneesh Seth sir, for enlightening us. And I assure you on behalf of these 300, not only these 300 volunteers who are attending here, but all the NSS volunteers we work with, that we are the flag bearers of this movement and we will take this forward from here. I would like to thank Nikhil Karkhanis sir for coordinating with us, Sri Sudhir Puranik sir, and all the other district coordinators with whom we have worked for this Vigilance Awareness Week right from the 26th. We are into various programs. So I would like to thank all the district coordinators, the program officers of NSS, and also all the NSS volunteers without whom all these programs of Vigilance Week were not possible. And last but not the least, my very own Vigilance Awareness Week core team who has worked with me not only for these 7 days, but from last 15 days we were working for arranging these many programs. So I am very much grateful to all my volunteers, my core team, my staff members, colleagues, and all the trustee members of PCGT, Chairman VP Raja sir, Chairman Emeritus Ribeiro sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, Abu sir.
Ruchi, I have to add one small thing that I should have mentioned earlier.
Yes, sir.
That today's Zoom link is because of courtesy of Mahatma Knight Degree College, Chembur, and we were facing little bit difficulty in the morning to organize Zoom platform for some technical reason, and merely the call of one call, their principal, Dr. Eknath Zarekar, and their program officers immediately made available this platform. So I thank the entire team of Mahatma Knight Degree College and their principal for their quick response in making this Zoom platform available.
Thank you, sir. I request all the participants to switch on their videos for taking pictures. Are we done, ma'am?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hereby declare that the program is concluded and request the host to kindly end the meeting for all.
Thank you very much, entire team of PCGT.
Thank you, sir.